Matthew Monteith, these are from a book project called Check Eden. Usually I would just bring these books in, it's really frustrating. And again, these are a little bit more ambiguous because like I don't know what stuff in the Czech Republic looks like. But here we have, again, like direct gaze, well lit, environment is telling us things about them, right? Like beautiful composition, great color, right? This is one of perhaps the most terrifying pictures ever. This is Voldemort in his 20s. I feel bad because I'm sure he's a very nice guy. Again, right, like what's happening in the picture, right? He's making this stuff, right? He has this look, like what's going on, right? There's always going to be some ambiguity and weirdness, and that's fine. It's another one. This is also from Matthew Monteith. Right, we know that this guy works in a dark room, right? Pretty clear, right? It's like he's made this apron by like clothespinning together these like rags. Giancarlo Montes Sant'Angelo, right? Again, so in seeing this, right, we have a sense of place a little bit. We're like, okay, like it seems pretty clear, gay couple. The lighting is really beautiful. The composition is really, really beautiful. All this stuff comes in to give us a sense of who the people in the picture are. Lindsey Witherspoon, she's an editorial photographer from the DC area. I think she came up maybe in 152. Also environmental portraiture, right? Again, the formality of it, right? The person standing there, right, sort of looking right in the camera in a context that is related to her project, which is about the Gullah-Geechee folks. Right, here we have these two women. They are clearly... They make some sort of fiber thing. Maybe they make carpet, right? Like that's what we're getting from this, right? This is a very much more like editorial version of the environmental portrait. It feels right out of a magazine. Very very controlled lighting, controlled composition, good color, formal pose, direct connection. Same thing here. I admit I don't remember. I think he's a curator and architect. I don't remember. If I were reading the magazine story, it would tell me because it would show me more about the place. Vincent Tullo, who we had in, I think he was in 141 this year. Great guy, does editorial photography, and this is whoever that famous guy is in his living room, right? So, right, we have this sort of like this attitude of the body, the pose, which is very sort of like relaxed and also sort of like, hey, right? We have this like very specific socioeconomic status from this space. We have this beautiful light, right? Very sort of like carefully controlled setup. We have the arrangement of the things, right? The beautiful positioning of this glass, whatever the fuck that is, on that table surrounded by that sort of like sea of books. And Chris Buck. So Chris Buck, another person who I wish I could bring in the book, does tons and tons of editorial, tons and tons of advertising, right? Really well lit, very carefully controlled, slightly goofy pose, right? We're like, okay, well, I don't know who this guy is, but clearly he is related to politics, political coverage, historical things. And it's Jake Tapper, who is a news anchor or something. Tina Barney, fuck Tina Barney. She makes pictures of like she's most famous for like pictures of like wealthy ass white people in the 80s, which, but they're good, right? Like you can just feel the sort of, I mean, maybe he's a nice guy. I don't know. It looks like a total douche. That radiating off of Mr. Jean Shorts with his like painting of his like 1600s ancestor and his like, laconic offspring in the background. Right? Like, who are these assholes? Amazing though, right? Like direct gaze, sort of posed, well lit. It's not documentary, right? That she didn't just walk in there and take this picture. All the people in the picture are aware of having their picture taken. They're sort of like directing their gaze at the camera, connected, whole thing, right? Beautiful, like sort of colors, layout, these like, you know, the big white rectangle there, the big white rectangle behind her, this sort of chaos of these flowery things, the chaos of the wallpaper, the pink, you know, really striking picture. Um, Another Tina Barney one, right? Like this sort of teeters on the edge of documentary, but the lighting, artificial lighting flash that she's brought in there makes it feel less documentary. The direct gaze makes it feel less documentary. The precision of how they're laid out in the frame makes it feel less documentary, even though you feel like maybe this girl moving was not necessarily like explicitly planned. The formality and connection of the picture for me puts us in environmental portraiture, again, along with the way that this environment makes me think things about these people. These are a couple that I shot that I just pulled up of different artists, right? So again, like artificial lighting, careful composition, right? Putting his head like in that big black opening, right? More formal pose, central. This one, he's not looking at us, but he's very much like sort of there for the camera. Maureen Cooper, she was in 141. This is her in her darkroom in Philly, right? Again, lighting has been brought in so we get that natural light on her face. Formal pose, direct connection, you know, compositional layout, all that stuff. And then Rene Medrano. These ones, I think these are interesting because they're a little bit less precisely controlled or sort of gussied up, right? There's a little bit more like, I don't know, there's a little bit more sort of like normal natural environment in these compared to, yeah, well, certainly compared to like Lindsey Witherspoon or something. But, right, still have the light, still have the, you know, pose, still have the direct connection of the gaze, still have sort of the composition of how things lay out in the room, although, God, I wish that wall was straight. That makes me a little crazy. And then last one also from Rene Medrano. Again, right, so older woman sitting on the bed, directly looking at us, well lit, right? There's a, you know, probably a strobe and an umbrella over here somewhere based on the sort of shadow, and sort of careful composition. That is environmental portraiture. Again, for next week, go ahead, look on the website. It's written down there, but you need to go out and get a couple of instances of environmental portraiture that you're into, right? Obviously, look on Instagram, look on any sort of like magazine-y things that you are interested in, right? So not fashion, not sort of like New York Times, but maybe New York Times Magazine, right? So it's not photojournalism, it's not fashion, it's not studio portraiture. It is in a place saying something about the people that are in that place, right? There's a connection between them and the viewer. There's a connection between them and the space. We understand who they are based on the space that surrounds them. So yeah, get hopping on that. Start thinking about who and what and where you want to make your own photographs. And we will look forward to seeing your samples next week.